I had been really looking forward to Detective Sadie and Son. This is actually the penultimate Debbie Reynolds film that I have to watch. I have one more after this that doesn't sound that interesting, so I should have really left this until the end. But once I discovered that it was only 99 pence from iTunes, I had to get it straight away because, interestingly, it's 10 times the price on Amazon Prime. So that's just something to bear in mind if you do want to watch it. And I do recommend it, but I also do realize I'm a little bit biased. I think if I had no love for anybody in the cast, maybe I would have enjoyed it a little bit less because it isn't perfect. This is also called Sadie and Son, but I do prefer the title Detective Sadie and Son. It was released in 1987, directed by John Llewellyn Moxey, written by Carl Kleinschmitt, and we have Debbie Reynolds playing Sadie, and Brian McNamara plays her son Nolie. And this focuses on this wave of muggings of older individuals and also a strangler case of this individual who goes onto subway compartments and strangles elderly women when they're on their own and there's nobody else there. And Detective Sadie was working this case, but then she's kind of forced into retirement and she decides that that's just not acceptable. And she gets herself back on the case and manages to convince her son to join the police force as well. And as a subplot there, it's about her son trying to find his feet with the police, also trying to work out if this is what he wants to do, and also he feels like he can't do it. So there is some test to his abilities there and some opportunities for him to show strength of character where that may be lacking slightly. It is actually quite hard to watch, and that's because I feel like this will probably hit home for a lot of people. I'm only 30 and I found it difficult to watch. But if I was of an older age, older people do just generally get mugged more because they're less likely to be able to fight back. And there are a lot of extras in this who are of a certain age. And there's this one scene in particular. It's the one where, I won't spoil too much, but it's the one where Sadie is pushing her son in a wheelchair and they're wearing disguises, and behind them there's a crowd of elderly extras and there are some muggers there. Well, they're not muggers, they're scammers who are threatening to mug them basically. And just that scene for me really hit home. That made me think this is actually going to be something that's really, unfortunately, a real fear for a lot of people. And there are a lot of scenes in this that I think are very emotional and actually very strong and very well done. Detective Sadie as a character I liked. I really liked her personality. I liked the fact that, as she pointed out, she was really meant to be given a desk job even when she joined the police when she was younger, and really had to fight to prove her worth as a female police officer. This is obviously in the 80s, but I feel like some of that stigma is still existing today. Maybe not to such a great extent. I quite liked her son. He was not boring throughout it, but he didn't really come into his own until towards the end, and I'll discuss the ending with a spoiler warning in a moment because I really want to talk about it, because I actually feel like, apart from the final frame, the final 2 shots were really creepy, and not in a good way, and I'll talk about those again in a moment. But I think it worked very well. It was exceptionally atmospheric. It was very repetitive. It was basically just a string of people mugging people and Sadie being in the right place at the right time. So it was very repetitive. It wasn't the most well-developed narrative. So there's definitely room for improvement, but I did think that it was very atmospheric and it got the message across, which is the main thing. So I'd recommend it if there's anything pulling you towards it. As I said, I'm perfectly willing to admit that I probably enjoyed it more than I would have done if Debbie Reynolds hadn't been in it. I do like her in this role. It's very different. It's very different to a lot of the roles she's done, but it fits her very well. And I guess the ending. So I'll discuss the ending now. There are a few things that I want to mention, so please don't listen to me if you haven't seen it and plan on watching it, because I don't want to spoil it. But at the end, the scene, there were a few things that didn't work for me, but also that did. When her son realizes that his mother is alone in the subway carriage with this person who he has just realized is the Strangler, yes, he chases after the train, doesn't look like he's going to get anywhere, but then he kind of just turns around and saunters back along the platform defeated, rather than trying to raise help. And I thought that was very unbelievable. But once he actually got inside, I was so infuriated at the people who took the gun off of him. Also don't believe that would happen. There are a lot of very unbelievable things in this, but the way he kind of came into his own there, I thought was fabulous. And it was wonderful to watch. Really, really beautifully done. I really enjoyed that a lot. So the ending was actually really satisfying. But the final shots were not. When we see Nolie kissing his girlfriend and that fades to a shot of Sadie kissing Marty, that was just bizarre because that's his mother. You faded one sexual scene into another sexual scene with his mother, and I just felt that was really awkward. I didn't like that at all, and that was not a really great way to kind of end it. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty decent film with, very emotive, definitely got the message across. Very powerful characters, or at least Sadie was. It was worth the wait. It was definitely worth the wait. Had I paid $9.99 for it on Amazon Prime, I would have been glad that I'd seen it because of Debbie Reynolds, but again, if it was just a film I'd watched because it sounded interesting, I would have been, really let down for the price. But absolutely, 99 pence on iTunes. I downloaded iTunes especially for it. I don't have an iPhone, so I have no need for it. It was absolutely worth the price. Definitely worth it. I'm glad I've finally seen it. Glad it's the penultimate one. Not expecting much from the next and last film, but definitely one that I recommend if there's something drawing you to it.